Excellent. Good to know. Right, so what am I doing today? Today I am stitching in a leather envelope document case. So it's a document case designed for papers and things that you want to carry, that you can carry by itself like a clutch or put inside a bag like a laptop case, briefcase, that kind of thing. And it's in the shape of an envelope, so it will have that kind of familiar look to it. I'm going to double check my mic's on. Yay, sound. Okay. Sorry, guys. I had to redo that because I forgot to put the mic on. It's sitting right in front of me, off. So there we go. So Burgundy Saffiano, which is quite a nice leather to work with. It feels very much like veg tan, but it's a chrome tan leather that's been compressed to make it firmer, and it's also pigmented surface, very scratch resistant, wears very well actually, and it has a nice kind of a hatch grain to it, which is imprinted. It's not been hand rolled grain side in or anything like that. So I'm pre-stitching these panels. So this is actually you can see there, like the lower half. If I grab the top flap and kind of place that over there, you can kind of see roughly what it's going to look like when complete. Yeah, so I've gone for a contrasting thread. I do like tonal threads, really, to be honest. In general, maybe same color thread, but maybe slightly lighter, so similar. I think that looks quite classy. But this, because of its shape, and because it's all matching, it highlights the shape a little bit more and showcases that envelope look just by having a touch of contrast, which I think is quite nice. You could do that with, you could have a matching thread and then a real heavy contrast edge paint, for example. That's another way of doing it to give a bit more definition to the shape. But I've gone with thread. That's a gorgeous color. It is, isn't it? It is. I mean, this is probably like a true, maybe not a true burgundy, but it's a very dark red. This was like just red with black added to it. But this obviously has that purplish, reminiscent of that wine, that burgundy wine color, which I think is really nice. It is, by some margin, my favorite color of leather to work with. I have worked with burgundy leathers of various kinds many times before. It's absolutely my favorite to work with. One of my favorites, burgundy crocodile. I haven't ever worked with burgundy ostrich. That would be nice. Yeah, for some reason it's just such a rich color. Yeah. I mean, I still like, the tans and the browns and the usual colors, and sometimes the dark greens are really nice. Yeah, London tan, another one of my favorites, but there's something about the burgundy. It's just really classy. And you get a lot of like vintage goods that I used to repair from like the 80s. It seems in the 80s that burgundy seems to be very popular. It's always been popular, but it just seems to be so much more from that 70s, 80s era. So it's quite a classic look. Let's support that there. Stephen, how's your day going, man? That reminds me, I need to pick your brains about something. No, you don't need me chatting to you. Just need some recovery. Hope you're doing well, brother. Yeah, so yeah, it has to be my favorite color overall. I did create some little swatches actually, which I do from time to time, and I'm just really stuck as to what to work with. And I'll do this with edge paint as well. This is what like a tonal color would look like, and you can see there it's pretty sure a shade or two lighter. And this was some Filet Noir thread from up there. This one is kind of matching the interior, so kind of a tan color. Looks quite yellowy on the camera though. This is the one that I actually went with. And that's black. And that is actually the edge paint I'm using here. You can kind of see black edge paint. For some reason, black edge paint or a black edge finish in general works well with burgundy. What's that device you're hanging your project from? This is literally just a mobile phone holder, and I clamp it to the arm that holds my main camera when I'm filming. I'm just using it as a makeshift kind of holder upper for now. I think it's like, I bought this super cheap somewhere. I don't even remember where I got it from. Can you talk us through the clamp, says Stephen? I assume you meant this, or do you mean the Dream Factory clamp? I think they've, I might be mistaken, they've improved on this recently. It does catch a lot though. Oh, okay, yeah. I was going to say, these ones aren't that good. I have to put leather strips on there because things catch, you know. You need one of these like you need a hole in your head. So, yeah. I think the latest iterations have actually improved on that, but it does catch a lot unless you sort that out. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, this is actually on the rear side. I haven't got a lining on there. I'll show you. So this hasn't been completed yet. So that's what I just stitched in. On the rear side, it's all bare, as you can see. This will get tapped down. The lining is going to go on afterwards, and then the lining gets stitched with this as the bottom of the document case, the sides, and also the top of this triangle here, along here, and then down here. That will get done once the lining is in. So these stitches will be hidden. The idea really is when you're putting documents in there, you got like the corner of paper, anything that could get caught or catch will do. So I'm stitching these panels in first, then the lining goes on, and then it will get stitched all around the outside. What I'm going to do is just cut that. The stitching part looks so easy when a pro does it. Yeah, well, it's repetition really. Yeah, so this will actually meet up with the stitching on the exterior, and I don't really want a back stitch unless I can help it. So what I'm going to do is just fray these a little bit. What can I use to do that? Probably my craft knife. Where's that gone to? Oh, there it is. Over there. Okay, so I'm going to fray this, and then I can glue it down because it's going to get glued over. So I'm just kind of scraping it to increase surface area a little bit more and flatten it down at the same time. And then I can get just a little bit of contact adhesive. Don't have to put it on two parts, wait for it to dry and blah, blah, blah. You could just literally press that down like that, and that's going to go nowhere. That's going to get glued over and a bit more and sorted out. So what I'm going to do in the meantime that's going. Let's just tap these down, just gently. Okay, so you can see, looks really messy, but those are basically glued in place. So those are the tag ends. And then the whole thing will get glued over with the lining on the inside. And that just avoids having to do a back stitch on there where a back stitch doesn't need to be. Okay, so let's do the other side now. So I need my Nightmare Factory clamp back in place. And that goes in there. I shouldn't need the upper clamp anymore. Trim this. Should I just do that? Fil Chinois 632. I've gone for a slightly smaller pricking iron size on this, 2.7 millimeter. So we don't want to go too thick on the thread. One little tip I was thinking about today, you know, when you go to 632 Fil Chinois and lower, sometimes you do get breakages. It does happen. So I thought, why don't I just kind of pull on that with a lot more force than I would ever apply to a project. And if it snaps before I've started stitching. And I thought, yeah, I'll do that from now on, see how that goes. It does happen from time to time with the thinner linen because linen does require compression from all the other fibers around it. And the more thickness, the more cabled it is, the more pressure, the less likely that threads can slide past each other. That's why you can only really go so thin with linen, but you can go super thin with synthetics because they have an endless staple length. You know, a 2 kilometer length of poly thread each strand is 2 kilometers long. There's no like ends that have to mesh together and twist under force. I also like brown thread with burgundy leather projects. Interesting. Interesting. I'd have to try that out. I'm not saying it wouldn't work. It could work. How about if a brown... What's this now? Oh, this is Rami thread. This is Rami's interesting. Rami thread. Rami's like a native Chinese fibrous plant that's supposed to be stronger than linen. Anyway, it's actually really good stuff. Very consistent. I actually have a sneaking suspicion that some of the brands that claim to be linen thread are actually Rami, but it wouldn't matter if it was because it's good stuff. Anyway, that's got a slight red tinge to it. That could potentially work. Yeah. The wrapping on your chisel is wearing well. Yeah, well, I'm not using it every day. But to be honest, handling it just polishes it up more. It already looks quite patinaed, but it's probably going to look quite nice in a few years' time. If I had more time, I'd probably do it to all my pricking irons, to be honest. I really like it. Double check where the first one is, and it's there. Okay, so I'm starting here and working back, so I don't have to do a back stitch. And as we know, the thread ends just get glued in place. Make sure they're equal, not quite. A bit more on this side. I hate having unequal thread. So when you pull them taut, one pulls tight before the other. And one here, actually, I should probably show you the lining. I've been putting questions up on Instagram stories. This is actually the back panel. And it's been laying flat as it's glued. And this is the lining, which is a direct glue in. And then, you know, the same lining will be going on here. So it will be kind of a burgundy with a light tan as well, which is quite nice. It's a classic combination, really. Oops. I'm finding the hole there. And of course, I'm not doing a cast on this because it's going to get glued over at the end of the day. I'm making a saxophone mouthpiece pouch holder. Nice, niche. But stitching the sides has caused it to lose its form. How many ways are there to connect the sides to gussets to the front and the back of a small item like this? I would probably send me a picture, Simon, so that I can get an idea of you know what we're talking about here. It's very difficult to visualize that. Obviously you can, but if you're getting warping, then the leather is probably maybe overly soft or needs to be reinforced, or your stitching is just a little bit too tight. And that could sometimes happen. But naturally, as you stitch, although you're actually creating a lot of perforated holes, which should stretch a seam slightly because you're putting mass in there, and then you're putting 2 layers of thread in each one, you're actually making it bigger in some ways. But overall, once you stitch it tight, it begins to compress. Every single one compresses a little bit more, and then totally it starts to shrink. So sometimes if ever you've made a belt, God, I need a haircut. You stitch one side, even if it's lightly, it looks like a banana, and it's curving towards the stitch side. That's because that side has shrunk a little bit. And then when you stitch the other side to the same extent, it evens out. That can happen to things that you're creating that need to hold a shape, unfortunately. So it may need more just reinforcement or going a little bit easy on the stitches, unless you're already going easy on the stitches, and then in which case reinforcement and just probably design needs a few changes. But yeah, send me a picture so I can see what you're talking about a little bit more clearly. So natural linen thread is not as perfect as polyester. I don't mind that too much. There's minor changes in how it lays. I kind of find that charming. I've talked about that before, but I just do. It's a natural product, much like leather. I don't want it completely blemish free all the time. A little bit of character. Although Saffiano has a kind of imprinted character, it still kind of has that feel. Greetings from Portugal. Simon says, will do, thanks. Yeah, no worries, buddy. Yeah, just what? We're not on Instagram, are we? No, we're on YouTube. Either shoot me an email, which will be on my website. There's a contact form on there and the address, or Instagram DM is another way of doing it. Either. have a look at that rear side. That's an interesting project, though. I love niche stuff. I really love niche stuff. And leather products for niche things. I think that's where you can be quite successful if you're doing, I don't know if you're doing it for yourself or your business, but if ever you're creating a business, holders for niche things interest me a lot. Move this up a little bit. So 2.7 millimeters. What's that, roughly around 10 stitches per inch? It does take a little while to stitch. But I think because I'm using a contrast thread, if I went a little too large on the pricking iron, like 3 millimeters and above, I think it might start looking just a little rustic. But this is, it's meant to be a little fun, a little playful, because it's a document case that's designed in the shape of a letter, an envelope. So, it's not taking itself too seriously to begin with, which is one of the reasons why I've added a couple of interesting things that I've yet to make. I think this is probably a mirror image on the live, but there's a wax seal that we're going to make out of leather. I'm not going to sew it onto this particular project, but I'll be making them and then just kind of like temporarily sticking them on for the photography and just for the illustration. And then on the rear side, we've got a stamp here. These will be perforated with a hole punch. And in the center, you've got a thing there so you can put your business cards in on the other side. So basically, it will look like the stamp on the rear of the letter, or the front of the letter, technically. And then what you can do is just, use your finger and pull out the business card and hand your business card. It's fun, it's playful. I mean, I've gone for a bit more of a formal, serious color here, classic color, should I say. But you could have these panels at different colors. You could make it bright yellow if you wanted to. You could really have fun with it. And it's, to be honest, a pretty simple project. It's not overly complicated. I mean, there's some add-ons that might be a little more fiddly to make, but nothing a beginner wouldn't be able to do, in my opinion. Tiago says, have you ever tried to make a Birkin or thought about it? I've been seeing some leathercrafters taking on the challenge. I personally, I wouldn't, unless I was going to set fire to it afterwards. I'm just not a big fan of like a direct copy of stuff, if you know what I mean. It would be interesting to make it, but only if I became an employee of Hermes and made it through there. It's like it's their design. I don't feel comfortable making somebody else's design. I'm sure. I'm not the first person to make a document case or a case in general in the shape of an envelope. I'm not the first person to make a briefcase handle. There's a lot of things that obviously is either gained or influence, or it's just a well-known technique that is done that I'm perfectly comfortable doing. You can't invent everything yourself, but actually making an Hermes Birkin that's not a Birkin, it would just be a very laborious high-end counterfeit. Even though you're not putting Hermes directly on there, you're using the style, the shape, the measurements, the hardware, that kind of thing. It's just not for me. It's not for me. But no judgment to people that do it or want to do it, as long as you're not selling it as trying to convince people it's Hermes. That's fine. But I would much prefer to create something that's mostly my imagination, or at least modify it. If I was to make a Birkin, I would change quite a bit of stuff about it. I would want to redesign everything from the ground up. But that's just me. I think a bag of that price shouldn't have the top flap, for example, is you've got like 8 to 10 millimeters, all those layers of the rear, the front linings and everything. It's like 8 to 10 millimeters thick, and it's just a whole load of edge paint. It's way too much edge paint real estate for me. I would 100% create some kind of binding, French binding, multiple turned edges stitched into each other, stuff like that. I think it looks awful. I love the shape of the bag overall, but there's a good few things that I think need improving on it. But they can't change the design. It's iconic, right? It's the design that everybody copies, from high-end manufacturers down to low end. So many bags you see have clearly been inspired by the Kelly and the Birkin, because they're just the most famous bags in the world. Simon says, yeah, I'm doing musician type stuff, also working on a microphone transmitter holder. There's another guy, a student of the masterclass, incredibly talented guy, Johnny Dove, or Dove or Dove, I can't remember. Anyway, if you search him on Instagram, you'll see his stuff, and he does a lot of audio equipment. Like he did a lid over bass attaché case with, and I think it holds all different microphones and stuff, and audio equipment inside. It was like really, really cool. So extra, but I love that kind of thing. But yeah, he's a good guy to follow if you like that, leatherwork and audio equipment. I think that's his line of work in general. I could be wrong about that though. It might just be his interest. I'm currently working, this is Bob, I'm currently working on a pad folio. A customer wants it to hold at least 3 pens, but I'm having design issues keeping the bulk down and the holders out of the way. Any suggestions? Yeah, learn to tame the customer. You might have to be a little creative. You also have to know whether or not the customer is expecting it to be super slim. Because if you're spending all this time trying to reduce bulk and they could care less, in fact, it's just easier to hold it if it was a little thicker. You don't know unless you communicate with the client. But if they're saying they want it to be thin, but I also want it to hold 3 pens, then you might need to, I guess, space where the pens are being held out to reduce a bit of bulk. Again, it's difficult to say without really seeing the design and knowing kind of the design concept. Did you post on that something similar on the Leathercraft Masterclass forum? I seem to. Rings a bell. Oh, Johnny Dove, like the bird. Yeah, I don't know why. Sometimes when I see, I did it. A customer earlier today. I've always read her handle like Fernware Uck, but apparently it's Fernware UK. It's like a German word that means something to her, and then UK. But I just read it. But when I read yours, it's Johnny Dove, and then I think about it like Dove. It's Dove, obviously. Sorry about that. But I was saying nice things about you. I didn't even know you were there. Oh wow, I need to check him out. Yeah, he says right after. You had the working bag made by Walmart. Yeah, that's hilarious. made in synthetic fibers. That was a good laugh, seeing people losing their minds over it. I wonder if Walmart actually knew that, or if just one of their buyers were buying bags from China and rebranding them, and just didn't know. I guess if you're not in the know, it's like an easy mistake to make. But I don't think they sell them anymore, though. I can imagine the big H weren't too happy about that. Hello from Canada. Kathy and accident Steve. We would always know when a telemarketer was calling because they'd pronounce it the wrong way. That's funny. Weird timing. Yeah. What is your connection to music in general? Is it something you do for a business, or is it just like a hobby of yours? I forget now. I'm getting old, Johnny. I'm getting old. I'm 42 next month. Good Lord. Looking back at some of the, someone sent me a screenshot. Stephen sent me a screenshot the other day of me, one of my earlier courses. Oh, I looked like a child. God, and that was 2018 when I started all this. 8 years ago now, man. I can't believe it. Can't believe it. Good Lord. Where does the time go? Where's the time go? Incidentally, guys, this, I am officially moving. Yeah, breaking news. So this is the course for March. So February's course is already done. This is a course for March. But I will be moving mid-Feb to new accommodation, new house, bought a new house. And I will be, the business will be in the house. It's a much larger house. It saves me having to have a house with a mortgage and then rent this workshop at the same time, which is the same price as my mortgage. In fact, the price has gone up recently. So I will be literally working from home, which will come with its pros and cons. But yeah, this is going to be the last course in this workshop. You know, everything's going to be coming with me. I've already arranged for the removal company to give us a price on this. Damn expensive moving these days, man. Especially with a workshop, two locations, a workshop full of stuff, and so it's going to be a large lorry they'll be using. But yeah, I'm going to miss this place. I'm really going to miss it. Yeah. It's been standing here since the 1700s, but then again, the new house that I'm moving into was built, it's a barn conversion from 1750, but recently done. So it's gonna have the old wooden beams. They're a lighter color than this, and they're massive, but yeah, kind of cool. Hi from Australia. How's it going, Haley? Recording, mixing is like a semi-professional hobby. Okay. I've been playing guitar for almost 30 years and been in bands for a long time. I'm 44, so, you know. Yeah, finally going through, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm trying to pronounce that. So I'm just going to say Steve. Yes, Steve ZYT. That's a hard handle to read. Cool. Okay, so this is what I've done so far. So there will be obviously a lot more and around the perimeter and that kind of thing. But these are the preliminary ones that have been done so that I can then put the lining over the top of it, and then no paperwork can get caught on any of this because it's going to be lined. But then it will be stitched all the way around the perimeter. So the lining's not going anywhere. Plus there's going to be a magnet in here so the flap can close. Just to make it up, give you a rough idea of what that's going to look like. So it is, get the right angle. There you go. So there's a flap that opens out that way. Okay. A lot of the time I've seen designs where usually the back part folds over to create the top flap. The only downside to that is if you, because it looks quite symmetrical, if you pick it up the wrong way up and it opens, all the documents fall out. Whereas this design is aiming to kind of counteract that because it's going to be stitched along the top. The documents can only kind of go further into the seam, if you know what I mean. So you literally have to open it out and flex it and then pull the documents out so that it doesn't rely on the magnetic closure for security of the documents inside. So it just makes it a little bit more secure. Also makes it a little bit easier and possibly even cheaper to make because you've got more parts rather than needing a much larger piece individually. So Tiago, the two places reminds me of old remark against the banks. I'm too poor to pay 1,200 euros monthly mortgage, so now I pay 2,000 in rent. Yeah, it's so much more expensive to rent than. But then again, you know, you don't have the initial down payment. Yeah. I look forward to seeing a new house on a live stream. Yeah. Thank you. I want to kind of document this a little bit as well. Document the move and the packing and setting up the new workshop. I'm just trying to think of what videos would be interesting because I don't want to just set the workshop up because people might be interested in seeing how I set it up and where I put things. I'm also starting from fresh so I can gain from experience of, you know, most of like, this is like the 20% of my stuff that I use the most is around here. And then everything else is in the drawers, stuff that I rarely use. It's like, could I streamline that even more, or could I change the height of the table, or could I put more drawers in here or there? And just kind of, I'm trying to think of what would be interesting for people who might be kind of thinking along the same thing. So, you know, any ideas, shoot me a line, guys. Gorgeous design, says Haley. Thank you very much. Very kind of you. Right, guys, I'm going to get back to the filming for the course part of this, but I will be doing more live streams, so make sure you got your notifications on. And for those of you brand new, don't forget leathercraftmasterclass.com, free video on how to hand stitch. Go there, you'll see everything, and it will all be explained. Should be fun. Wear a GoPro. Yeah, you know what? When I moved into this place, I did document everything, man. Everything that I did, from building the tables to putting up all this stuff and where I was going to put things and setting up. Or there's a wall for hammers, a wall for scissors, a wall for woodworking tools, installation of the Skyver machine and all that kind of thing. It was really fun because it was a new adventure for me as well. I was expanding the business a bit and new beginnings. But yeah, just like trying to come up with ideas of what I could do this time. Congrats on the move. If I had a fresh start, it would begin with an overhead lighting. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I've got lighting on the side, overhead, in front. Lighting is everything. Whether you're filming or not, it's everything. Thanks for the stream. Have a good day. Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Cheers, Stephen. Chat with you later. For the rest of you, thank you very much. Again, notifications on. There'll be more lives coming very shortly, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Have a great day.